You wake up in the middle of the night, not because of an alarm, not because of the light, because of a sound, a branch snapping somewhere near the camp, breathing that definitely isn't yours. And you have a fraction of a second to realize one simple thing. This whole time while you were asleep, you were completely defenseless. Your body wasn't moving. Your eyes were closed. Your muscles were almost completely shut down. You were lying in the darkness, surrounded by creatures for whom a sleeping human wasn't a threat. It was food. Today you lock your front door and never give it another thought. But for someone living 50, 100, or 200,000 years ago, every single night came with the same question, with no guaranteed answer. How do you fall asleep, knowing there's a creature somewhere nearby, capable of killing you before you even have a chance to open your eyes? This wasn't some minor detail of everyday life. It was one of humanity's major engineering challenges. And the way our ancestors solved it didn't just determine where they slept. It determined the way you sleep today, even if you've never stopped to wonder why. Let's start with why this was such a serious problem in the first place. Sleep isn't simply a passive state of rest. It's a deep biological reset. A period when your body deliberately shuts down part of its control over itself. This is especially true during REM sleep, the stage when we dream. At that moment, the brain is almost as active as it is when you're awake, but the body isn't. Your skeletal muscles enter a state close to paralysis. This isn't a flaw, it's a built-in safety mechanism. It keeps you from acting out your dreams and injuring yourself or the people beside you, but that protection comes with a cost. While your body is paralyzed and your mind is lost in a dream, you're completely unable to respond quickly to a real threat. You can't jump to your feet. You can't shout at full strength. You can't even immediately understand where you are. To any predator that hunts at night, a sleeping human wasn't a difficult target. It was almost a perfect target. Motionless, silent, with almost no chance of fighting back. And here's the paradox. Sleep is just as essential for survival as food or water. Without it, your memory suffers, your reactions slow, your ability to make quick decisions begins to fail, the very abilities you need to survive during the day. So giving up sleep was never an option. They had to solve a different problem. How do you arrange sleep so that this biological vulnerability doesn't become a deadly risk every single night? And the first solution our earliest ancestors came up with was extremely simple and perfectly logical. If the body is defenseless during sleep, then the solution was simple. Keep the body out of reach. Long before modern humans appeared, our earliest human ancestors solved this problem in just one way: height. They built nests high up in the trees, just as modern chimpanzees and gorillas still do every single night. A nest was built quickly from fresh branches, woven into a sturdy platform high enough to stay beyond the reach of most large ground predators. For a creature weighing only a few dozen kilograms, sleeping at that height was far safer than staying on the ground, where leopards and other nocturnal hunters roamed. The strategy worked so well that it became the primary sleeping strategy for millions of years. And here's something truly unexpected, something that connects that distant past directly to you. Some sleep researchers have proposed that the familiar sensation of suddenly falling just as you're drifting off to sleep, that sudden jolt that feels as though you're about to fall, may be an evolutionary echo of that ancient era. High above the ground, during sleep, even the slightest loss of muscle tone could mean literally falling from a branch. That sudden muscle contraction before deep sleep may have been a built-in safety mechanism, a final check of your balance before the body completely relaxed. If that's true, then every time you jerk awake as you're falling asleep in your bed on the 6th floor, you're experiencing a tiny, almost invisible trace of the time when sleep and falling were directly connected. But over time, our ancestors came down to the ground, and the solution that had worked for so long was no longer so easy to rely on. The move to life on the ground changed a great deal, and one of the greatest challenges came at night. On the ground, you could no longer simply keep yourself out of a predator's reach. There wasn't always a suitable tree nearby, and as our ancestors grew larger and heavier, climbing into the branches became increasingly difficult. They needed a new tool for protection, one that worked right at ground level. That tool was fire. The light and warmth of a campfire solved several problems at once. Most nocturnal predators instinctively avoid open flames. The sight and smell of fire signal danger, not something worth approaching. The smoke also helped mask the scent of sleeping humans, which might otherwise attract predators from a considerable distance. And the firelight allowed people to see at least partially, what was happening around the camp. Instead of being surrounded by complete darkness, where every movement remained unnoticed until the very last moment. But fire had one serious flaw, one that made it impossible to simply light a campfire and let the entire group fall asleep at the same time. A fire had to be constantly maintained. The firewood ran out within a few hours, and if the fire died during the night, all of that protection disappeared at the very moment the group was least able to respond. Fire alone wasn't enough. Someone had to stay awake to keep it alive, which meant someone in the group couldn't sleep at the same time as everyone else. And this is where the story becomes truly fascinating, because humans didn't solve that problem with a single invention. They solved it by completely reshaping the way the entire group slept together. A fire has to be kept alive, which means the entire group can't fall asleep at the same time. Someone has to keep watch over the fire. There was only one solution: change the way the entire group slept, not just one person, the whole group. Anthropologist David Sampson studied this very problem. He called his explanation the social sleep hypothesis. The idea is simple. In a group of 15 or 20 people, people didn't all fall asleep for the entire night at the same time. Sleep came in waves. One person fell asleep earlier, another later. Someone woke up to feed a baby. Someone else simply tossed and turned, got up to stretch, and went back to sleep. Because of that, there was almost always someone awake in the camp, even if that person didn't realize they were protecting everyone else. Sampson compares such a camp to a snail's shell, a form of protection the group carries with it, wherever it spends the night. And this isn't just a beautiful comparison. Scientists tested the idea. They studied the Hadza in Tanzania, one of the few peoples on Earth who still live without electricity. Participants wore sensors. The sensors recorded movement and sleep every night. The results were unexpected. Across 220 hours of observation, researchers found only one moment when everyone was asleep at the same time. 18 minutes, just 18 minutes. Across 9 consecutive days. The rest of the time, someone was always awake. An elderly person got up during the night. A mother woke to feed her baby. A teenager simply couldn't sleep, which leads to something interesting. No one appointed night watches. The system worked on its own, simply because people of different ages sleep differently. Younger people stayed up later. Older people woke earlier at dawn. Children woke more often during the night. Together, those natural differences formed an almost unbroken chain of wakefulness. No one sacrificed their sleep for everyone else, but the group as a whole was almost never completely defenseless. But protecting the group was only half the challenge. There was another question: what exactly do you sleep on? And this is where archaeology delivers a real surprise. At Border Cave in South Africa, archaeologists discovered bedding made of grass. It's around 200,000 years old, one of the oldest known pieces of evidence that humans deliberately prepared places to sleep. The grass wasn't laid directly on bare rock. It was spread over a layer of ash from the fire, and that wasn't an accident. The ash served two purposes. It kept the surface beneath the bedding drier, and it repelled crawling insects. Otherwise, insects would inevitably crawl into the bedding at night. A similar discovery was made at Sibudu Cave, also in South Africa. It dates back about 77,000 years. By then, the bedding was no longer a single layer. It had become multi-layered. People made it from sedges, reeds, and other grasses. The top layer deliberately included leaves with insecticidal properties. These leaves repelled insects and parasites. The bedding was periodically burned completely, then laid down again. This is the oldest known form of sleeping place hygiene, and it leads to an important idea. Protecting sleep didn't end with keeping large predators away from the camp. It extended all the way down, to the point where human skin touched the ground. Small bites, and infections, were dangerous too. They weakened people, and a weakened person became an easier target for much greater threats. A carefully prepared sleeping place wasn't a luxury. It was another layer of protection in the overall system. The height of a tree, the light and smoke of a campfire, waves of wakefulness moving through the group, a clean, carefully prepared bed beneath the body. Each of these layers of protection appeared gradually. Each one closed a gap the previous solutions couldn't. Together, they transformed one of the most vulnerable moments in human life into something our species managed for hundreds of thousands of years. Today, you lock your door and don't even think about it, but your body remembers more than you realize. The light sleep that's easily disturbed, the sudden jolt as you're falling asleep, the ability to snap awake the moment you hear a sound in the dark. This isn't a flaw in the modern nervous system. It's an echo of hundreds of thousands of nights when sleep and danger went hand in hand. You can sleep peacefully today for only one reason. Deep within your biology, That system is still at work. It was built by ancestors who could never afford to sleep peacefully themselves.